Hello and welcome, and this is Ristavani here, bringing you a guide on how to efficiently tank as a Barbarian Sentinel. As a tank, it is your job to maintain the highest threat and or aggro while also maintaining very high survivability for yourself. Threat is generated by simply doing damage. While you are in a tank paragon, you will have modifiers that increase the amount of threat you get from the damage that you do. For a Barbarian Sentinel, our base modifier is ×3, meaning if you do 100,000 damage, the target will give you threat as if you did 300,000 damage. With that being said, your survivability needs to be very high, because if you have the highest threat and or aggro, that means you will always be the one getting attacked. And if you're dead, you don't have aggro. And if you don't have aggro, there's no point in you being alive. So, all in all, let's go ahead and jump into our stats now. Starting with the 4 most important stats for tanking is going to be defense, HP, stamina regeneration, and deflect. With stamina regeneration and defense being the 2 most important stats. Defense because every time you take damage, it will reduce how much damage you take. And stamina regeneration because every time you block, it consumes stamina. And the faster your stamina regenerates, the more often you can block, therefore meaning less damage you take every time an attack comes out. Your stamina pool is half of your HP pool, so this is why HP is important. And then deflect gives you a further chance to reduce damage incoming to you every time you are attacked. Now let's move on into gear. For your artifact, you want to use Wyvern Venom coated knives. I feel this is best in slot for tank because not only does it increase the damage that you and your party deals, it reduces the damage that you take. For your main hand weapon, you want to go ahead and put Sure Strike as your modification. I have Relentless Slash because I both DPS and tank as a Barbarian. For your offhand, you want to have your modification be Stamina Regeneration because stamina is very, very important to you while tanking. For your necklace, waist, and artifact set, you want to have the Electric Collar set because the set bonus is really good for tanking. Every time you use a daily power, you will take 5% less damage and do 5% more damage. This helps your survivability and your threat generation. Now, moving on to mounts. The best in slot mount is going to be Gas Spore. Despite the other mount that gives you 50,000 HP, Gas Spore gives you plus 20% stamina regeneration. This is so much better than having a little bit more of a stamina pool, and there's just nothing that beats it. You can obtain this by getting it out of the Epic Resurgence lockbox or the mount pack. Now for our insignia bonuses, I use 2 Gladiator Guiles because it gives you additional movement speed when your stamina is very high, and it gives you additional stamina regeneration when your stamina is low. When you have 2 of the same insignia bonuses, the second bonus only gives you 50% effectiveness. So the first one gives me 10% movement speed, the second one gives me 5% movement speed. And another insignia bonus I use is Barbarian Revelry. Every time you critical attack, you get 1% of your HP pool back. I have on 2D, so every time I crit, I get 1.5% of my HP pool back. And then for my final thing is Oppressor's Reprieve. Every time I actually do get CC'd, I heal 5% HP over 5 seconds. Moving on to my companions. I have Pup here, Augment Pet, doesn't really matter which one you have, just get a legendary Augment Pet and get as high as bonding rinses as possible. I have Potent Precision to give me more critical severity, gives me more damage to generate more threat. I have Iron Golem on my defense slot, gives me a lot of HP and defense. Baby Deep Crow for my offense slot, gives me a lot of power, generate more threat. Iona Stone gives me power and deflection, important stats to have. Minstrel gives me power and awareness. And then I have Ernagon, it gives me 32,000 HP, a lot of HP. For your boons, you want to go HP and power all the way up. And for your tier 5, you want to have as much stamina regen and recovery speed. And then your master boon, which is very important, is focus retaliation. Every time you cast an encounter, you have a time to activate this boon. All the damage that you receive will be reflected back on the target, increasing the damage you do, increasing the threat that you're generating. This is a very underrated boon. On average, this tends to be about 10 to 15% of my damage while tanking for free, because I don't know when it activates. It just, when it does, it gives me increased damage, and it seems to proc often. Now, let's go ahead and move on to our skills. For our at-wills, we'll be primarily using Sure Strike and Challenger Slash. And on the occasion, we will swap out Challenger Slash for Sentinel Slash, because there's a feat down here that further increases your aggro modifier as a barbarian, making sure that all the skills you do give you even more threat than it was before. For our encounters, we will be primarily using Not So Fast, Indom Strike, and Takedown. And on occasion, we'll be using Punishing Charge if you feel like you're in a scenario where you're losing aggro, or you may die and go to 0 aggro. You might want to use Punishing Charge in combination with the class feature Challenging Charge, which will make your Punishing Charge place you at the top of the target's threat list. So you die, you get back up, you do Punishing Charge, you back at the top, you have aggro again, and you start building aggro like how you was before. Or you could swap out one of your skills for Primal Fury. Primal Fury also combines with a feat that makes it so when you do damage inside of Unstoppable, you can end Unstoppable by casting Primal Fury for free, and for all the damage you did while in Unstoppable, you will heal for all of that. Moving on to our dailies, we do Spinning Strike for AoE and Savage Advance for single target. For our class features, we will primarily be using Steady Rage and Trample of the Fallen, two features that give us more damage, more threat. If you feel like you need a little bit more survivability, you can swap out Steady Rage with Mighty Vitality, decrease your power by 5% but increase your HP by 10%. Or, once again, if you feel the fear of dying or losing aggro suddenly, you can use Challenger's Charge to use Punishing Charge to put you at the top of the aggro list. For our feats, we're going to be using Frustrating Slash, which makes Sentinel Slash increase your threat modifier for everything that you do for 10 seconds. We use Indomitable Might to make our Indom Strike hit up to 200 magnitude harder based on how much HP we have. We use Disarming Takedown to add a effect to Takedown, which makes Takedown while in Unstoppable increase all physical damage that target takes by 10% for 10 seconds. For the fourth feat, we want to use Crushing Advance, but unfortunately it is bugged right now, where if you take Crushing Advance, the fifth feat will not work. So sadly, we are using Undying Instinct just so we can get our fifth feat to work, because it's a little bit more important. And our fifth feat is going to be Blood Fury, makes Primal Fury heal us after we are in Unstoppable and do damage in Unstoppable. So that finishes up for the skills. Let's move on. Okay, so now we're going to go into the tanking rotation. Now, unlike DPS rotation for Barbarian, tanking rotation is going to change based on your situation. So when it comes to mobs, your primary goal for your rotation is going to be to cast all of your skills as soon as possible, hit as many mobs as possible with your Not So Fast, and then try to get as much rage as you can so you can enter rage mode, so you can activate it and spam challenger slash to hit the whole room. And this will generate enough aggro in the whole room that you can just have everything attacking just you, while your damage dealers go ahead and clear out all the mobs that are there. Now for single target, it changes a little bit. So takedown increases the damage that the target takes by 10% if it is physical damage. So if you have physical damage dealers in your party, you will want to reserve takedown for only when you are in rage mode, so you can continuously apply this debuff on the target. Now if you are in a party that does not have a lot of physical damage dealers, you can continue to just cast your skills as fast as possible, as often as possible, to go into rage mode as frequently as you can to continue to build as much threat as you can. Now let's take a short moment to talk about Unstoppable. So while you are in Unstoppable, aka rage mode, you will receive a 360 block even with your guard down. But there's a huge drawback to this. While you are in rage mode, you practically do not regenerate any stamina, meaning it is very dangerous for you to stay in rage mode for a long duration of time, due to the fact that the boss is always swinging at you, and once your stamina hits 0, it will stay at 0 and you will start taking significant damage. So you want the goal to be to enter rage mode as soon as possible, so you can come out as soon as possible and react to what the boss is doing as soon as possible. When it comes to your artifact, you want to activate your artifact as often as you can. It is a damage increase for the party. There are very few moments where you want to save it. The only time you will ever end up saving your artifact is if there's an incoming tank check. For example, the lightning strike in Trovian, where he puts his hand over top of your head and he hits you for a significant amount of damage. You might want to save it for that, so that when that hit does happen, you take 12% less damage on top of you doing other things to mitigate as much damage as possible. But generically, you want to just use it as soon as possible, as often as possible. Daily, exact same as your artifact, unless you have a situation where you know you're about to take huge damage and you want to save it just for that situation. You want to cast your daily as soon as possible, as frequently as possible, to give you as much threat you can get. And last but not least, Doohickey, item that you can get. It's a 30-second cooldown. It's a free AoE attack. It's being nerfed in mod 17 to do only 100 magnitude damage, but it is still an AoE attack, and it is very good for getting aggro of multiple mobs. So I highly suggest trying to obtain this item, so that way you have an easier time getting rooms of mobs. And it's a range skill, and we don't have range, so it's good to walk up to a boss or walk up to a group of mobs and throw a doohickey while you're running toward them. So with that all being said, that about covers everything you can cover for tanking Barbarian. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please feel free to leave them in the comment section below, and I will get to them as soon as I possibly can. I hope that everyone who watched this video learned something or took something good away from it, and I hope you all have a great day. See you in the next video.